on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone. That is Devin. Could you do us a favor real quick? Please hit that subscribe button. It really does help out. Now, on to the episode. We have a very special episode for you today. We are bringing back the Kobe coin. For people who don't know what the Kobe coin is, put two movies that we love
or we hate. We
let fate decide. Now, this one I wanted to do about childhood movies that we feel like we only saw.
I was surprised to see that some people had seen some of the movies that I saw when I was a kid, because the internet wasn't like it was back then, like it is now.
So mine, I'm going with Matt Damon's Titan A.E. A futuristic world type of film.
Yeah, I chose not that film at all. I chose The Pest. This is a genuinely terrible movie, but as a kid, I loved it. I thought it was like the funniest movie ever. And it introduced me to John Leguizamo. And imagine my surprise when he blew up. I was like, whoa, that's the guy from The Pest.
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to put The Pest as number 8, all right? And we're going to put Titan A.E. as number 24. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Come on, Pest.
Yeah. Okay, so the movie that we are watching right now on Mostly Wrong Opinions is Titan A.E. Titan A.E. came out in 2000, right? And it was distributed by 20th Century Fox. Anastasia, All Dogs Go to Heaven, all those movies were released by 20th Century Fox, and they felt like they were hitting on all cylinders with these type of movies.
Not only that, this was like right at the tip of the Disney Renaissance too, where Disney had come back full swing with Lion King and all that stuff exploding, Toy Story, 20th Century Fox thought this was going to be like a big deal.
But with this film, I enjoyed it back then, and I kind of enjoy it now. Because I feel like it's a simple story of a kid that's on the planet Earth that's about to die. He loses his father without him knowing that he lost his father, and the alien race is coming to destroy the planet. This kid is played by Matt Damon. He grows up to be it says teenager, but he's like 20 years old.
The dude's name is Kale. I'm like, come on, y'all, like the salad. Come on, Kale.
Yeah. But I'm gonna tell you, man, there's some voice acting talent here. You got Drew Barrymore, you got Bill Pullman, we got your loser of the Kobe coin in here, John Leguizamo's in this. I look back at this thing, and I'm saying that this had some heavy hitters. The animation for what the time it was pretty damn interesting.
But the thing about this movie is kind of like you were saying earlier. At this time, DreamWorks was coming out, firing all cylinders. I think Shrek was right around the corner.
Like 2 years out.
Yeah, Pixar had blown the doors off of the animation world with Toy Story already. And when Titan A.E. came out, it probably looked old to a lot of younger kids who were expecting something that was more CGI. Now there is some CGI in here, but this is a bit of a holdover. And just to preface it, this was made by 20th Century Fox, and this movie bombed hard. It was such a bomb that 20th Century Fox closed their animation studio, and it has not reopened ever since. But I do think they might have been onto something here with this idea of doing a sci-fi film, but doing it all full animation instead of like live action. Because to your which like you're saying earlier, the animation doesn't age nearly as hard as CGI does. So the way it looks back then, more or less, it still looks the same, like quality wise, today. So that's kind of a hard thing about sci-fi is like a lot of the technology, obviously it starts to age after a while and you look back at it and you're like, oh, that looks like garbage, you know? But this one, it still looks fine because it's animated. So I can see why this was a good idea, but I can also see why it bombed. So yep, you're right. This is a movie about a guy named Kale. He's escaping Earth. Earth gets blown to smithereens by these aliens with pure energy.
Did it. I was like, damn, that thing is gone.
Yeah, that thing got destroyed. And he spent the last 15 years growing up to be, I guess he was about 20. I guess he might have been five when he left Earth.
Yeah.
15 years later, makes him 20 now. So he spent 15 years working as like
a scrapper,
like at a scrapyard or something, like a garbage man almost, you know, in space, you know. But his father gave him this ring. This ring has these coordinates to the Titan, and this is where the story goes. I'm like, so the ring goes to Titan, and the Titan does what now? And it's unclear until so late into the film. They're on Titan when they're finally explaining what it does. And I'm like, y'all should have done this an hour ago because I didn't understand why we came here. The story is interesting, but I think the reason why it failed is because it's kind of a dark story. It's got mature themes. People curse. There's kind of nudity in here.
There's blood.
And there's blood. And I can't stress enough that we are Americans. And here in America, even today, we don't take animation very seriously. So we expect animation to be family friendly. And when there's like a scene where the main character is butt ass naked, you know, and you don't see anything, you see his butt, but you know, he's naked and he's cursing and people are bleeding and they vaporize this alien to like goo into like just his teeth were there. Like,
he's gone.
I can see that the word of mouth, I imagine, for this movie probably was terrible. Because people probably came and brought their kids to this movie and they were like, oh, what the heck is this? They didn't expect to see an animated movie that was a little more mature. But there is a lot of talent. One talent thing was weird though. I looked it up. I was like, did Drew Barrymore play an Asian lady in this movie?
Ooh.
Whoops.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you this. Scarlett Johansson played an Asian woman in a live action movie.
Yes, she did. I feel like her career hasn't been right since, man.
Nah, boy.
Yeah. But hey, she got a lot of money from Marvel after both being in Marvel movies and suing Marvel movies. So I'll be honest, I did not watch this movie growing up. I heard of it. I probably heard you talking about it, but I never saw it. So this is the first time I've seen it, and I gotta say I was not impressed. I thought it was kind of stereotypical and sometimes boring, and I got confused at times. But when you really sit down and you think about this film, you think about, because it's a cult classic now, and you think about why it became a cult classic, it actually makes a ton of sense. Because this was probably your introduction, and not just you alone, but probably our entire generation, our introduction to a more mature sci-fi story. And at the time, I bet, because in the year 2000, what were we, 13? You know, I bet it probably, you know, blew your brain. You're like, why? You know, seeing this like mature story. And especially when you probably weren't expecting one because it was animated. So it probably had a really profound effect on a lot of kids. Even though it didn't find an audience at the time, I think it did eventually find its audience, and that's why it has become such a cult classic. And if you're a kid and you watch this film, you might not realize that this movie is leaning on stereotypes so much, because you might not have seen some of the movies that it's aping.
Like, you can tell when it comes to the animation style of how they're drawing these characters. When it comes to Cal, like, he has the 90s white boy look.
He's got the 90s cut, the 90s ball. Yeah.
He looked like freaking Jonathan Taylor Time Machine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was joking in the beginning. He was like, come on, we've got to go. And the little boy was like, go where? And I was like, to get your 90s haircut. Because the haircut is really funny looking.
The reason why how I heard about this, because my brother watched this film. And
your older brother.
He thought it was, my older brother, Shane, yeah, he watched this film. My brother would like show me an anime that I never knew of, like Street Fighter and Fatal Fury and Guyver and things like that. And this was like you said, like the introduction to a more mature type of science fiction animation style, you know, of film. And, you know, we liked it back then because it was like, oh, it's action packed, got blood in it and stuff like that. And today the story is loose, and you know it's it could be boring at sometimes, but I commend 20th Century Fox for taking the leap.
Yeah, this was kind of a big swing for them. Yeah.
There was one alien race that I wish they could have like talked about more. That planet that they went to where the trees were hydrogen gas.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, that race is like a whole bunch of like Batmen.
Yeah, Batman.
Bats.
Yeah, they did like
I wanted to know
Batman.
because they helped them out, and they didn't really go in depth of why they helped their father, or his father, but that's the looseness of the story. Is like they came to this planet. They look like bad guys and stuff like that, but they actually helped them out. But I want to know why. But
so stuff like that. I'm like, I thought we were gonna learn more about them. I was like, oh, naturally we're gonna learn more about these guys, but they just leave the planet and we never see them again. Kale he'll leave the ship and then he'll be somewhere, and I'm like, where are you? Why are you like there's a point where the leader of his little ragtag group that they had put together, the leader was dirty, and he turned on him, and
saw that from a mile away.
And then he turned, so he left, and then they appeared somewhere. I'm like, where there are other people like walking around, and I'm like, are there another ship?
Yeah, a colony station.
There's no sequence of them driving to a colony station, or I was like, where are they? I was confused. Like, I know I'm watching this film, but I feel like it felt like there are like scenes missing. I'm like, what? Like some of the connective tissue between the scenes. But like you said, when they actually got to some of these places, like that place with the hydrogen trees, that looked pretty cool.
If you're looking at the what you said earlier about how animation has changed and things look older, you look at Toy Story 1 compared to Toy Story now. Yeah, it is a complete difference.
Wow, I saw that the other
27 years later or something.
Yeah, I was watching some clips from Toy Story 1. I watched them for most of my opinions because I put it in a little clip in one of the previous videos. But I was like, yo, this shit looks like trash. I was shocked at the quality, and like you said, each and every Toy Story looks better and better and better. But maybe 27 years after Toy Story 3, we'll look back and that one looks so great. So these things do age, but the animation does not.
But 2D animation seems to last a lot, because you can look at Aristocats and you're like, oh man, I like Aristocats.
When I was a kid and I was watching Looney Tunes, it wasn't until like I was like in high school that I was like, yo, this shit was drawn in like 1930. Like, this was old. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
not to mention the social commentary that we're like, yee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some of this stuff is weird. Right. But like you say, the hand-drawn animation does stand up. But I bet to a kid at the time and a kid now, if they saw 2D animation, I think they would be turned off, because that's not what kids watch then or now. And I think that's one of the main reasons why this thing bombed hard enough that Fox Animation shuttered right afterwards.
But it made me feel so nostalgic seeing that type of drawing. When you look at you look at Disney itself, not Disney Pixar, but Disney itself. They haven't made a 2D film in so long.
Yeah, I think the last one I can think of is like The Princess and the Frog. That's the last one I can really think of off the top of my head. But yeah, you're right. Like this 2D animation is really, it is like gone. You know what I mean? Like
I want them to bring it back, man. I want them to bring it back because it breathes so much characteristics, and you can tell the artist's character, him or her, was drawn within that.
Sure. And you know what? You're making a good point, because in Sonic, there's a quick Sonic 2, there is a quick sequence that is hand-drawn, or at least it looks hand-drawn. It looks like anime, and it looks it looks awesome. I was like, yo, the whole motion like that. And then it cuts back to Sonic and Knuckles looking like trash. And I'm like, oh. So I think you're right that I would love to see more hand-drawn stuff. And it also kind of reminded me of Turning Red. Because Turning Red, their animation started to flatten out a little bit towards the end. And that stuff looked awesome. I'd love to see more big movies be hand-drawn. That would be really cool. And it would feel different. But they should probably aim at older people because I think kids want to see CGI. I don't think they want this.
Right. Now, do you think that with the resurgence of popularity within the last, I guess, 7 years of this film, do you think that 20th Century Fox, aka Disney, should bring back their division? Actually, you can actually put it on Disney Plus now because they have their that parent control thing now. They can either put it on there or they can put it on Hulu. You think they should bring it back?
I think Disney Plus is a good place for something like that. But you know what? Probably not. Because hand drawing is expensive. It's expensive as hell. And I think that's why they shifted towards CGI. So probably not. But I would still like to see more hand-drawn movies today. Maybe they don't need a whole division for this. They could just hire a few for, a couple movies and see what happens. And I think Disney Plus, you got a good point. I think Disney Plus would be a great spot for
more mature content,
hand-drawn thing from an American studio. We're saying this again as Americans, as if the rest of the world isn't doing mature hand-drawn stuff all the time, right? This is
anime.
Yeah, anime. This is very normal for Asia.
Bruh,
But in America, it's not normal. So I would like to see more, but I don't know if they could support a studio here in the U.S. anyway.
Yeah. So let's get to the rating of this this film, man. The film itself is a nostalgia baby because I remember my brother and I and my stepfather were all looking at this film. And we enjoyed it then. And like I said, I enjoyed viewing it again now. But as a movie reviewer as I am now, the story is lackluster. But I'm not going to give it that low of a score. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to copy you. Give it a 6. I like the hand-drawn stuff. I think that's cool. But yeah, I'll be honest, this was kind of a boring film for me because I don't have that nostalgic attachment, but I'm almost jealous because I can see how people would have an attachment to this. I can see why this is a cult classic, but for me, didn't do much for me. The voice actors were cool, but I felt like I couldn't hear some of them. I'm like, it's like they're like away from the mic. I'm like
John Leguizamo played the scientist doctor in there, and you can barely hear some of the things that he was saying. Yeah. You can tell he also took that same character's voice and used it for Ice Age.
Oh yeah, well, it's John Leguizamo. He's got such an iconic voice. I can hear his voice immediately. As soon as I turned on Encanto, I was like, that's John Leguizamo. Like his voice is so iconic, and I feel like the story. It wasn't clear. It wasn't clear until really late what the Titan was, what it did. I understood that it was somehow important to...
They just kept saying that you got to get to that Titan so it can save mankind. But how?
What does it do? I kept waiting for someone to explain this. And so I could feel myself making some like head lore in my mind. I'm like, oh, maybe it can reform the planet or turn back time. What does it do? We didn't learn anything until so late in the film. So that was a mistake.
Well, I gave this film a 6. Devin gave this film a 6. That is our review for Titan A.E.
Titan A.E. Get ready for the human race.
We would like to thank you for clicking on this video. And you do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right down there to the right.
I'm looking at it. I know you can see it. It's right there. Click it.
To the right. It's right there. All right. So, we really appreciated you guys, man, for doing that, getting our subscriber count up there. But also, if you did like this review, hit that thumbs up. It really does help out the channel. Or you get a thumbs down and you can be like, man, screw all that 2D animation, man.
I love Shrek.
Yeah. Love your green dude. If you want to, that is your opinion. But just remember one thing. It's mostly wrong. See you guys in another video. Peace.